I'm about to show you 4 Michigan defensive plays. I want you to figure out what they all have in common. On this first one, LJ Kaysen weaks the Rutgers screen, sending the ball left. Aday Mara is in a deep drop, and Will Cheddar stunts from one pass away, leading to a miss. Auburn starts play number 2 with an Iverson cut. Yaxel Lendeborg switches it, then Mara sags off of his man to give help, and it's another miss. The third play, Elliot Cadeau goes under the ball screen twice. Kaysen stunts from one pass away, but Northwestern scores. And finally, we have another ball screen, but Cheddar switches it this time, and Nebraska decides to ISO him one-on-one. It's 4 different plays with different coverages. So what do they have in common? Well, all 4 of them ended in a long 2-point jumper. That's the not-so-secret sauce behind the elite Michigan defense. This season, Ken Pomeroy added a new stat to his site, average 2-point attempt distance. Put simply, it measures how far from the basket opponents are taking their 2-point shots on average. And Michigan ranks number 1 in the country. They force opponents to take the longest 2-point attempts of any defense. And it's probably no surprise that they're also in the top 5 in opponent 2-point field goal percentage. Teams are shooting 44% on twos this season against Michigan's jumbo-sized front court. Speaking of that front court, the biggest reason, both literally and figuratively, for their dominance inside the paint is 7'3" Aday Mara. He's 4th in the country in block percentage, and that might even understate just how much of a weapon he is as a rim protector. His wingspan allows him to just swallow up opponents, blocking shots without even jumping. But he also has exceptional timing when leaving his feet. He doesn't fall for pump fakes. Watch here how Lendeborg bites on the fake, but not Mara. He stays down and then gobbles up the shot attempt. Northwestern has numbers here. Mara stunts at the ball, starts to recover back, and then just pins the ball off the backboard anyway when the handler decides to keep it. Mara can also block threes. Here he is 2 feet in the paint when his man catches the ball, but still gets the deflection. But my favorite type of Mara play is when he gets 2 consecutive blocks in a row back to back. You'd think the opponent would get the message the first time the 7'3" guy emphatically rejects a shot attempt, but apparently they feel the need to test him again. That being said, some offenses do stop trying to challenge Mara. You'll see plenty of Nash dribbles against Michigan. That's where the handler keeps his dribble alive underneath the hoop instead of trying for a layup. We might as well call that the Mara effect. Because like most dominant rim protectors, it's not just about the shots that were blocked, it's also about the potential shots that were deterred from ever happening in the first place. But Michigan's 2-point dominance isn't only because of Mara. Head coach Dusty May's defensive scheme also has something to do with it, and we'll dive into the details of that scheme in this video. Statistically, the Wolverines are eerily similar to a famous defense that actually won a national championship. I'll tell you more about that comparison as well. This video is sponsored by Hudl. Film is one of the best teaching tools in basketball if it's clear and easy to use. With Sports Code and Fast Draw, Hudl helps turn video into teachable moments, pairing clips with concepts players can actually understand. This is an example of a play diagram I created using Fast Draw. It's an Iverson curl play that many teams run looking to steal an easy basket. With Fast Draw, we can easily bring the play to life by animating it with just a few clicks. We can also insert actual game film of the play right into Fast Draw, so players have multiple different ways to learn. Fast Draw is easy to use, is great for organization, and integrates seamlessly with Fast Scout reports. Hudl makes film a better extension of how you coach. Check it out at hudl.com/hoopvision. I want to start out with baseline out of bounds defense. Michigan puts their center on the ball, but his priority isn't to protect the basket. Instead, he's doing whatever he can to get a deflection. This season, Mara has 3 tips that led directly to steals when guarding the ball on blobs. That wingspan comes in handy. The other 4 Michigan defenders switch everything. So the idea is to pressure the inbounder while also taking away the opponent's actions with switches. Here you can see the switches stall out USC, so they just chuck the ball into the backcourt forward to avoid a 5-second count. Ideally, Michigan wants to make a play on the ball when the opponent is forced to lob it in at the last second. It's another way to generate a turnover. Nebraska ran a play that gave the Wolverines some trouble. Cale Jacobson sets a screen on Nimari Burnett, so Lendeborg should switch onto Price Sandfort while Burnett takes Jacobson. The problem is the angle of the screen makes it hard for Burnett to get in front. Luckily, Mara is there to help out. Nebraska ran the same play later in the half, and this time Lendeborg gave help on the Jacobson cut, which ultimately led to a Sandfort 3-point attempt. Another way teams try to attack Michigan is by having their point guard inbound the ball. Here it's Donovan Dent being guarded by Morez Johnson, who's playing the 5. Then, as soon as the ball gets inbounded, they throw the ball right back to Dent and let him ISO. Ohio State does the same thing here with Bruce Thornton against Mara. It's theoretically a mismatch because of the way Dusty May chooses to put his 5-man on the ball. However, Michigan is elite at what I call fix-it switches. If they see a mismatch and there's enough time to fix it on the fly, they'll switch right out of that mismatch. That's how Mara goes from guarding the point guard to guarding a big here. It happens a lot on out-of-bounds plays when the inbounder gets a handoff after throwing the ball in, but Michigan constantly uses the fix-it switch in their regular defense too, not just blobs. This is the first play of the game against Illinois. The Illini set a guard-to-guard screen and Mara is forced to help. But watch what happens when Kylan Boswell backs the ball out. Burnett takes Boswell, allowing Mara to get back to his own man. Here, Lendeborg wants to be matched up on Cam Boozer, so when the ball handler is looking away, they fix the mismatch. You've probably started to notice that Michigan switches a lot, usually with everyone except Mara. It's a crucial part of their scheme. This is another type of switch called a pre-switch. It's the end of the half and Michigan knows Penn State wants to set a ball screen with one of these two players. They'd rather have Lendeborg in the ball screen than Cheddar, so Lendeborg just positions himself above both players, then switches again onto the ball. Here's another fix-it situation that's called a scram switch. Roddy Gale is mismatched on Trey Kaufman-Renn, so as the ball goes into the post, Johnson kicks Gale out so that he can guard the post up instead. Whatever action you run, the Wolverines are usually going to try and switch it at least 1 through 4, hopefully stalling out your offense in the process. But there certainly have been games where the switching has got Michigan in trouble. Like watch this basic 45 cut. Trey McKinney is pointing for the switch, but Burnett doesn't recognize it, leading to the 3. Here's what the defense should look like. Cadeau takes the 45 cut and Lendeborg immediately closes towards the corner. Minnesota also scored twice with just basic flex action. Here they slip to the basket against the switch. And on this one, Lendeborg isn't alert, so he gets caught on the top side, sort of like we saw earlier with Nebraska's blob play. Duke took advantage of the switches by getting smaller defenders onto Boozer and then letting him create against the mismatch. So towards the end of the game, Dusty May decided to stop switching in order to keep size on the freshman star. The problem with that was John Shire then used Boozer as an off-ball screener on a couple important plays down the stretch. Without the usual switches, Michigan got caught chasing the back screens, leading to big Duke baskets. So guarding straight up has its pros and cons, just like switching does. Before we get more into the scheme, I want to talk specifically about Lendeborg. His defensive versatility, along with Johnson, is what allows the Wolverines to play 3 bigs together and still be so effective. Lendeborg can guard any position on the floor. He got the Braden Smith assignment against Purdue, so he'll guard point guards or big men. He has really good hands, both when it comes to stealing the ball or blocking a shot, like when he had 2 big transition chase down blocks against Northwestern. However, when guarding off the ball, he has some bad habits where he sometimes does his own thing instead of just staying solid. Here he gets switched on to Sarr, then just totally forgets about him even though he's right under the hoop. Watch him here. His man is sprinting towards the other corner, but he doesn't notice until it's too late. And then one more where he gambles off of his man for no real reason, which leads to a wide open Nebraska 3. He's still a net positive defensively for Michigan, and his ability to guard the ball is really good, but his off-ball miscues stood out when analyzing the film for this video. But let's get back to what makes Michigan elite. Another reason it's so hard to get in the paint against them is because of their gap help. When guarding one pass away, the Wolverines basically have Packline principles. They aren't trying to deny passes, they're closing off potential driving lanes by getting in the gap and stunting at the ball. It's even more noticeable when there's a non-shooter on the floor. Mason Blackwood is a 22% three-point shooter, so Cadeau is deep into the driving lane, basically ignoring his man. Their emphasis on being in the gap is one of the reasons why Michigan owns the paint, and it's also why they give up a high volume of threes. Statistically, they're very similar to the 2019 Virginia team that won a national championship with a coach, Tony Bennett, who was famous for the Packline defense. Like Michigan, 2019 Virginia was an elite field goal percentage defense who didn't turn you over very much, but also didn't foul. They both allow a low volume of assists and a high volume of threes, but Virginia's Packline consistently held opponents to poor shooting from behind the arc almost every year. And that's exactly what Michigan is doing this year. The Wolverines force the most off-the-dribble threes of any team in the country, and opponents are shooting under 30% in total from behind the arc. Offenses are unable to get pressure on the rim, so they settle for tough jump shots. Watch how 4 guys surround Boozer here when he gets into the paint. Then Isaiah Evans takes a turn trying to get in there, only to get his shot sent into the first row by Johnson. It's not easy to drive against the Wolverines. So if we put everything together, Michigan is anchored by one of the best rim protectors in the country. They switch everything 1 through 4 to take away your action, and then they plug the gaps and scramble out of it with urgency. Not to mention they have great length at every position. This play kind of encapsulates everything. Penn State tries to drive into the lane but is met by gap help. Michigan scrambles out of it and is in position to help again, but this time McKinney whiffs and the Nittany Lions do manage to get a rare piece of the paint. But guess what happens next? That mistake gets erased immediately. Over at bballanalytics.com, my online course that I co-created with Ken Pomeroy and Eric Shapiro is available for purchase. In it, we teach basketball analytics from the ground all the way up. We've had people enroll from all over the world with all different basketball backgrounds. The course can be taken at whatever pace you'd like. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.